for this landscape, we only have to do a little bit of drawing, for which I'll just make few pencil lines to show the, the horizon, where I will be putting a little tiny house, very lightly sketched. So that's the little tiny house. I hope you can see that I've drawn it very light. And now let's begin with the painting. For the painting, I will be using a big brush, and I will be starting the painting by doing the background, the sky. So for which I will be using wet on wet technique, which means I will be lightly wet the paper, dampen the paper, and then I will start adding the color to the background. It's a night sky, so I will be using a mix of indigo color mixed with a little bit of violet. And we will also be including some trees at the background. So it's completely wet now, and we will go ahead and start with adding the color. I will also be using a little bit of ultramarine. So let me start with the indigo color from the top. And I will be using ultramarine as I move at the bottom. And you can tilt the paper a little bit for the watercolor to flow a little through the paper towards all the wet areas, like this. And I'm also going to add a little bit of this violet shade on the top, mixed with a little bit of indigo. And again, I will just let the paper stand a little bit so that the pigment, just travels down the wet paint and travels to the bottom. And that's good for our background. Now I will be just lightly add some color in the foreground, for which I will be using this very light wash of ultramarine, very light. So I'm just going to give some shadow on the snow. Very lightly. And what you can do is, if you still feel that it has a lot of pigment, you can just use your paper towel and dab the excess paint that you have just dropped. So it will give you very light wash of that color, the strokes that you have used. I will also be adding a little bit of black mixed with this ultramarine, and again use it on the snow, just a little bit. Near the house. And while the background is still wet, I'm going to use a little bit of table salt and sprinkle it in the background. Let it dry completely and then we will add the other details. It's almost dried up and you can see how table salt has given the effect. It looks so beautiful and natural. And now we are going to paint the little tiny house, and for that I will be using very light wash of brown mixed with I will be using burnt umber mixed with a little bit of burnt sienna. And so this part of this house will be covered with snow, so we are not going to actually paint this part. So let me start from here. Adding a little bit black to this color to give a darker shade on this side under the shed. So I'm using a darker, like a black mixed with the same burnt umber and sienna to give a darker tone of color here. And I'm going to use the same color and give a little more touch on the top just for the shadow. For the snow, I'm just lightly going to use the same brown shade and lightly outline the boundaries of the shed of this house very lightly. And then I will be using the same ultramarine blue that we have done in the background, very light wash of that color just to give the snowy effect. If you have more pigment, then you can just wipe this pigment, pick it up with your clean brush and just wipe on your paper towel. So that's good for our house. And for the background, I'm also going to add little small trees in the background, for which I will be using um, the same shade that we used above mixed with violet and indigo. And I'm going to add trees in the background. Very loose, nothing complicated, just few trees. Some can be light, some can be dark. I'm just going to use a clean brush to soften the edges because we want a merged look of the trees. I'm going to add little tiny trees here as well using the same color. And while the trees part portion is still wet, I'm going to add a little bit of brown branches in the trees. And I'm making sure that I do not have very much of it should not be very watery, because I do not want the color to, completely bleed in the trees. So it should not be very, very watery. And if you want, you can use a very thin brush for this particular thing. I'm using a very thin brush here, taking little pigment and then just trying to add the branches. And lastly, I'm going to add very light yellow color in the window, just to depict that there is some light coming out from the window. Like that. And if you want, you can add little more details with a darker shade of brown mixed with a little bit black to give this house a little more details. Like, I'll just add a little more shadow under this shed and add some liney texture. Like that, and add a little more shadow here. And once again, you can intensify the once it's completely dry, you can intensify some of the lines from the tree. Use the same color to give some of the twigs effect in the snow, just to give a more natural look. Near the house. And with this, we have completed our painting. Let's dust off the salt. If you have enjoyed today's tutorial, then please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. That means a lot to me and it motivates me to make more such painting tutorials for you all. And I really enjoy doing this one and share my bit of knowledge with you all. So please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. That means a lot to me, and I will see you guys in my next painting video.